Government shutdown in the rearview mirror and the Epstein files back in the headlines. It could only be a matter of time before President Trump puts his old hometown in the crosshairs again. New York City was center of attention in the recent elections thanks to the political ascendancy of Zohran Mamdani. President Trump has already vowed to push back on the incoming Democratic Socialist mayor, and he's talked about an immigration crackdown and National Guard deployment in the country's largest urban area. Those issues, plus the fate of billions of dollars worth of funding for transit infrastructure, could also prove decisive in next year's governor's race as New Yorkers decide whether they want a leader to keep fighting MAGA or join with MAGA. Joining me now is New York's Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat. Governor, thank you for being with us this evening. We've been talking to Democratic governors all weekend about the impact of the longest federal government shutdown in our history coming to an end. How would you say New York pulled through these last 6 weeks, and where do things stand with the restoration of federal SNAP benefits that some 3 million of your residents rely on just to feed themselves?
You know, Reverend Allen, it's good to see you again. It was a traumatic time for New Yorkers. There was so much stress and anxiety inflicted on our residents by Donald Trump and the Republicans who say they represent New York, but truly do not. They're only there for the beck and call of Donald Trump, and we know Elise Stefanik is one of them. But we're coming through it. We had this schizophrenic and dynamic around SNAP because we were told the funds would be there, then we went to court to protect it, then we lost in court, we won in court. Donald Trump takes it all the way to the Supreme Court. He was so desperate to stop money from going to everybody from senior citizens and veterans and children. So literally, I had to deploy an extra $100 million to help fortify our food banks because the lines were getting so long. So how we're coming through, I think there's this sense of unease about New Yorkers realizing what Republicans are willing to do to them. And now even tomorrow I have to do an event to say, would you please unleash the money that provides assistance to cover high utility bills, especially in the winter. It's getting colder up here. I'm in upstate New York right now. I'll be in New York City tomorrow. It's getting cold, and we have families that are desperately waiting to find out if they're going to be eligible for federal heating assistance. So that's my event tomorrow. So the trauma, the stress is ongoing. Now there's this uncertainty about life, what life will be like on the next few years of Donald Trump and the Republicans. And it's stressful for people. It's a lot.
The federal government has reopened, but some major infrastructure projects in and around New York City appear to be in limbo after the president said that he terminated the $16 billion Gateway Tunnel project linking the city and New Jersey. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has since said the project is still alive but under review. Trump's threat came as the administration froze some $18 billion in infrastructure funding when the shutdown began. Where do things stand now, Governor?
We're still waiting to hear, Rev, because they threatened to keep it closed. It's 15,000 jobs. I mean, at a time when, because of the Trump tariffs and his economic policies, which are just taking this country into a spiraling economy, we're losing more jobs now all across the country. This is 15,000 good-paying union jobs, and they're willing to just let them be sacrificed on the altar of politics. So we don't have a firm answer right now. This is money that was needed to rebuild a tunnel, the lifeline of the Northeast, that was damaged during a Hurricane Sandy, years and years ago. We finally got it done. And the money was there under Joe Biden. And I brought state dollars, and Senator Schumer worked hard on this. And then they just pulled the plug. Also, the Second Avenue subway, which you know, was going to finally open up communities of colors that were affected and living in transit deserts. And this has been talked about since the 1940s. We were finally able to get the money from the federal government, our money, to get it moving along. And that's another one of the two major infrastructure projects that have been on hold right now. So I hope to hear soon that this is all in the rearview mirror, but we don't have that clarification right now.
Now, moving on to your reelection race for governor of New York, you mentioned your Republican potential candidate, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who has launched her campaign for the GOP nomination to take you on. And she just dropped her second ad against you this weekend. Take a listen.
not for us.
Kathy Hochul has a record and has led single-party Democrat rule, making it the most unaffordable state in the nation. We have the highest taxes, the highest energy prices, the highest utility prices, highest grocery prices, and rent that continues to skyrocket.
How do New Yorkers feel about Kathy Hochul? Well, they're weighing in.
No comment. No comment.
Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
This has to stop.
It's time to save New York.
Now, as you can see, Stefanik has used some of your own words against you. What's your response to this and to her candidacy?
Well, I would say New York State will not be voting for someone who voted 100% of the time with Donald Trump. We have not lost our values and our beliefs. And to think that someone like that believes she has a shot to win over New Yorkers, who just spoke in the last election, by the way, days ago, that there is a resounding rejection of Trump policies from Virginia to New Jersey, all across New York State. We flipped areas of New York that have been in Republican strongholds for decades. We turned them Democrats. So she's not paying attention to the fact that voters in New York are sick and tired of what Republican policies are doing to them. And this is someone, let me just frame this. She had a chance to stand up for the children of New York who were losing food at their table. She had a chance to stand up for children who today are not sure if the heat's going to be warm enough when they go to bed because there's not assistance from the federal government. And she, get this, unlike someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who now looks like a profile in courage, won't even stand up to protect the child victims of Jeffrey Epstein and others. She would not vote to have the files released like other Republicans had the courage to do. So no one's going to want someone who's there to help only Donald Trump and not help New Yorkers. I'm looking forward to this debate and this election. I truly am.
Now, part of that ad we just played shows you on stage with New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who Stefanik is already trying to link you within order to stir up voters opposed to his progressive policies. Last week, you met with the mayor-elect to discuss his proposals for New York, specifically universal child care and tackling the affordability crisis in the city. Can you tell us how that conversation went? Which of his policies can you get behind, and what proposals of your own are considering to help pay for them?
No, listen, it was a very positive conversation. I opened a line of communication ever since he became the Democratic nominee. And he inspired 1 million people to vote for him in New York City because he wants to focus on affordability, as I have for many, many years. I do believe, and we had another conversation a couple days ago about this, there is a path to universal child care. And this is personal to me as New York's first mom governor who could not find child care when I was an attorney for Senator Moynihan in Washington. I had no one to watch my kids. I had to leave a job I love. So that is a stressor that was there for my children, and it is still there for children of today. So we can work on that. There's other areas we want to continue focusing on, building more housing so people's rents finally start going down when we have more supply. We've seen that happen in places like New Rochelle. They flood the zone, they build more housing, and guess what? Rent is going down. But for her to use that as a scare tactic, it is just outrageous. It shows that she is truly not willing to stand and work with the mayor of New York City. Voters need to remember that as well. My job as governor is to make it all work out and to calm down the situation, have confidence in new leadership, and be vested in his success, as we all should be.
Staying with that, Governor, President Trump has threatened to bring his immigrant purge to New York, whether through an increased ICE presence in the city or a possible National Guard deployment. I understand you and Mayor-elect Mamdani discussed that contingency, and your staffs are starting to coordinate plans. Do you feel like the two of you are on the same page when it comes to protecting the city from Trump's crackdowns? And what happens if Trump and congressional Republicans start talking about funding freezes to the city or even the state of New York?
Well, to take your last point first, Reverend Al, we'll go to court. I mean, there is no rationale that would ever be held up in court for freezing money just because the voters elect an individual that the president does not support. I mean, that is ridiculous. We will win in court every day of the week on that. So we'll fight the funding freezes that have been threatened. But we're working with the current administration in New York City as well as the next administration, and basically having a warm rooming situation. We're talking about all the strategies we need to invoke, but the number one thing we need to do is prevent that from happening. And I believe that the business community has a powerful voice to remind the president that New York City is the economic engine of the nation. At a time when his policies are hurting our economy, he should not be looking to sabotage New York City, its businesses, and our success. He should be, as a New Yorker, understand that chaos in our streets, which does not exist now, would only fuel the flames of fire that'll hurt our economy and the ability for us to keep generating revenues that also go to Washington. So, point number one. Number two, we have spoken to a lot of groups of people that would be inclined to be supportive of perhaps protests. I will protect their right to protest every day of the week. I will protect their right to protest. But we have agreed that there will not be violence. We'll make sure that we stand up. We make sure people know how we feel about this. We'll make sure the resources are there to support these individuals who are simply here to live a good life and live the American dream like my parents and grandparents were able to do. And to make sure that we don't have our cities descend into chaos, which is exactly what he's looking for. We're not going to let that happen in New York. And lastly, sending in the National Guard, and I've said this to the president, that is an insult to the 35,000 dedicated members of the NYPD who put their lives on the line every day. You're basically saying, we don't have confidence in you. We don't think you're doing your jobs. I don't think that's a good message for Republicans to send. Not only do they try to defund our police by withholding money that I had to get back, number one. Number two, you should not be telling our police department that they can't do their jobs. They're the best.
And I might add, I stood with you and faith leaders as you took these issues on the president. I also know you talked to the president, so you've not been not trying to be open where it could work, and that has been your governing style. Am I correct about that?
That's right. That's right. I want to prevent that from happening. I mean, we'll deal with the aftermath, but we're still at a point now where we need to have common sense prevail. It is not in anyone's interest to do this. We will work when we have to help get rid of the hardened criminals. But I've got to tell you right now they're going after high school students, college students, daycare center workers, and separating them from children who they should be, safeguarding. I mean, they have gotten to a point that is no one could have ever imagined. What ICE agents are doing, coming in with masks, not being identified, scaring the crap out of people, if I can be so crude, and it is so un-American that I think that's part of the rejection of Republican policies, not just across the country, but you're going to see that in New York State as this unfolds. But I'd rather just see it stop, go away. Don't let it happen here in New York.
All right, and I noticed you're wearing a Buffalo Bills sweater. They won today. Maybe you're sending a message. Thank you very much to New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Thank you for being with us. Let's bring in Maryland Congressman Glenn Ivey, a Democrat. Congressman Ivey, thank you. I want to start with the shutdown. Why did you choose to vote against the funding bill? And now that it's over, what do your constituents need? How did this long closure impact them?
Well, I wanted us to keep fighting. I thought the fight over the health care piece, the extension of the tax credits for the Affordable Care Act was critical. We've got people, not just here in Maryland, but across the country, millions of them who are facing premiums that are going to double or triple in January unless the Republicans move quickly to fix that. And it really doesn't look like they've got their act together. They don't seem to have a plan for how to address it. And they've only got a few days to get it done. And by the way, they're talking about it like it's a new issue, but this was on the table in January when they came into office. And we've only been in session in the House. Johnson's kept us out except for 13 days since July 25th. So instead of being here doing our job, and they could have been focusing on whatever healthcare proposals they've got in mind, they were off camping or doing whatever they were doing. So I think that's a huge issue. The other part, though, the impact on federal government workers, and I have around 60,000 in my district. It's been devastating, but not just with the shutdown. I mean, that started on January 20th. And, beginning all the way through, they've been on a real using that Elon Musk chainsaw to eliminate as many federal government employees as possible. And I think it's around 250,000 now nationwide. So that's been devastating because they can't provide the services that they were doing. I had one constituent who was doing, clinical trial work on Alzheimer's. She got terminated, and the research got shut down. And there's 1,000 stories like that across the board. So it's been damaging. I'm sure people are happy to get back to work, but people in my district wanted me to keep fighting, and I think they're disappointed that the Senate 8 senators voted to wind it down.
Can you say that since January, under the House Speaker Johnson, the Republican House Speaker of the House, Trump ally, that you've only been in session 13 days this session?
That's from July 25th. So
From July
they voted
25th.
on July 25th to pass that bill that they sent over to the Senate, and they didn't come back because they didn't want Representative Grijalva to get sworn in. And the reason they didn't want her to get sworn in, because she became the 218th vote that made the discharge petition ready to move through.
Now, let me push you right there. Let me push you right there, because on Tuesday, the House is expected to vote on whether to release more of the Epstein files. You've spoken out in favor of transparency. Take a listen to your Republican colleague, Congressman Thomas Massey from Kentucky.
I think we could have a deluge of Republicans. There could be 100 or more. I'm hoping to get a veto-proof majority on this legislation when it comes up for a vote. And, you know, the president's been saying this is a hoax. He's been saying that for months. Well, he's just now decided to investigate a hoax, if it's a hoax. And I have another concern about these investigations that he's announced. If they have ongoing investigations in certain areas, those documents can't be released. So this might be a big smokescreen, these investigations, to open a bunch of them to as a last-ditch effort to prevent the release of the Epstein files.
It's taken nearly 4 months to reach this point. What are your thoughts? And more importantly, why should voters be paying attention to this?
Well, it's important, I think, for voters to pay attention, because right now the Republicans, the Trump administration in particular, is fighting tooth and nail to prevent these files from being released. And remember, the Epstein machine was basically, you know, pedophilia run amok, with rape taking place and the like. And then you got the Department of Justice going to meet with his top lieutenant, Ghislaine Maxwell, and apparently giving her some softer, treatment now that she's in a cushier prison cell, and pushing for a commutation of her sentence. So it looks like the Trump administration is trying to cover this up. The name that apparently pops up the most frequently in the files that we've gotten so far is Donald Trump. He's doing everything he can to try and divert attention to other Democrats or whatever. But at the end of the day, the truth's going to come out. And I think it's important for the House to keep pushing. Thank goodness for, Congressman Massey. I think there's 2 other Republicans that are signed on to the petition. I hope he's right. I hope we do have, dozens or maybe even 100 that sign on for it when it's time to vote. But you can rest assured that the Trump administration is burning up the phones to try and get Republicans to vote against this so he can continue to hide what he's done.
Now, I want to turn to the president's recent actions in Venezuela. In the last 90 days, at least 80 people have been killed in U.S. strikes on 20 alleged drug boats, while little evidence publicly presented proving they actually carried drugs. Now, just as we've moved our largest aircraft carrier within striking distance of the country, Trump has hinted he's made a decision about possible strikes, and Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, is appealing for peace. And again, we've not seen any due process to prove that these people that were killed were in fact drug dealers. We haven't even seen any drugs being shown, even floating on the water. Should Congress get involved here?
Oh, yeah. The Republicans should be leading the charge on this. Unfortunately, Democrats don't control the Senate or the House. So we're unable to do things like issue subpoenas to get information on what's going on there, or to hold the administration accountable in the way that we would like. But, it looks to me like this is a big distraction effort. The Republicans lost big in New Jersey and Virginia in those gubernatorial races. The affordability agenda that the Democrats are moving forward with, I think, has really taken hold. And he's finally figured out he's got a real problem with respect to that, because his tariffs have pushed up grocery prices, and other prices have been going up too for utilities and the like. And then he's got this healthcare piece that's about to explode in January, when these monthly payments double and triple for Americans across the country. So I think this is a big distraction enterprise on his part, and sooner or later the information is going to come out on this one too. You'll notice they haven't released any information that supports what they've done, and I think they're actually just flat out killing people for political reasons that don't have anything to do with protecting the United States from importation of fentanyl or any of the drugs that they've been pointing to.
Now, lastly, I need to ask you briefly about the recent redistricting push across the country. This morning, Trump took to social media threatening Indiana Republicans who don't support redistricting with primary challenges he's threatening them with. Your Governor Wes Moore has recently begun pushing for redistricting in your state, creating a committee to explore the option, but not quite all the Democrats in your state are on board. In light of Trump's post this morning, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we definitely need to move forward here in Maryland. Keep in mind that all of this got started when Trump picked up the phone and called the governor of Texas. Mid-decade, which is usually you only do it every 10 years, but he called up the governor and said, "I need 5 more House seats out of you." And the reason he did that was because even then they were starting to see that they were going to be in big trouble with respect to trying to hang on to the majority in the House of Representatives. And now he's trying to do that in other states as well. And I know that, I'm sure there's a lot of Democrats who would rather not do it this way, but we've got to fight fire with fire. And keep in mind that in 2024, the Republicans did this in North Carolina. They stole 3 seats away from the Democrats, and that's the main way they were able to maintain the majority right now. We can't afford to let that happen. We need to control at least the House, one chamber, to make sure there are some guardrails on the Trump administration, because they're not capable of controlling themselves or providing their own guardrails or even following the law.
All right, Congressman Glenn Ivey, thank you for being with us.